A prophecy attributed to a woman who died 30 years ago claims that in November 2026, a massive extraterrestrial spacecraft will appear in Earth's atmosphere. And this is not the only prediction drawing renewed attention this year. An ancient text appears to point to a final pope. A Japanese artist predicted a disaster that caused many people to cancel their trips to Japan. And an indigenous tradition speaks of a star that would announce the end of an era. But where did all these predictions come from? And why are so many of them being connected specifically to 2026? Stay with us as we uncover the stories behind them. For decades, people from different countries traveled to a small house in Bulgaria to meet a blind woman named Vangelia Gushtarova, better known around the world as Baba Vanga. According to those who met her, Baba Vanga did not speak like someone simply guessing what might happen in the future. Witnesses claimed that she described vivid images, mentioned specific names, and delivered warnings that seemed to come from an unseen source. Baba Vanga died in 1996, but her words were reportedly preserved by relatives and people close to her who claimed to have heard them firsthand. The predictions attributed to her for 2026 contain 5 major warnings: a military escalation involving several world powers, a global economic crisis, increasingly destructive natural disasters, the rise of artificial intelligence that becomes difficult to control, and a possible encounter with extraterrestrial life. Several publications claim that Baba Vanga spoke about the arrival of an enormous spacecraft in November 2026. Some versions say that it would appear in Earth's atmosphere during a major sporting event. Others suggest that it would not be an invasion, but humanity's first visible contact with a non-human intelligence. Regarding the possibility of a new war, the predictions mention a confrontation in Europe, a struggle over strategic territories in Asia, and a breakdown in relations between major global powers. In a world where new threats, attacks, and military alliances emerge almost every week, there is nearly always a conflict that can be made to fit such a description. The economic warning works in much the same way. It speaks of a financial crisis caused by the collapse of traditional systems, rising debt, and declining confidence in national currencies. However, it does not identify which country would trigger the crisis or explain how it would begin. A market crash, a banking collapse, or an escalating trade war could easily be interpreted as the fulfillment of the prophecy. The most modern prediction, however, concerns artificial intelligence. Baba Vanga is said to have envisioned machines capable of influencing or controlling human decisions. This does not necessarily mean robots walking among us. It could refer to systems that manage information, decide what people see, and make choices that once belonged exclusively to human beings. Another figure frequently connected to predictions about the future is Argentine artist Benjamin Solari Parravicini, who became widely known during the 1930s. According to the legend surrounding him, he began waking up with mysterious phrases and images in his mind, things he did not remember consciously planning. He would pick up a pencil, quickly sketch a figure, and then write a few short words beneath it. He called these works prophetic psychographs. Parravicini claimed that an entity known as Friar José de Aragon was guiding or drawing his attention to these messages. Between 1936 and 1972, he produced more than 1,000 drawings, some of which appear strangely modern when viewed today. In 1938, for example, one of his psychographs was later interpreted by followers as a reference to television before it became a common feature of everyday life. In another drawing, he described an artificial form of motherhood in which human beings would be developed without direct physical contact. Decades later, in vitro fertilization became a reality. He also drew a dog and wrote that it would be the first living creature to travel through space. In 1957, the Soviet Union sent Laika the dog into orbit aboard the Sputnik 2 spacecraft. In 1971, Parravicini wrote about a divided Argentina and mentioned a mysterious figure who became known as the Grey Man. Popular interpretations connect this image to a profound political transformation and even the possibility of violence in the streets. However, Parravicini never explained who this person would be, what his name was, or when he would appear. The drawing presents a simple figure, accompanied by symbols that some people interpret as signs of authority or political power. In 2025, the psychograph stopped circulating only among prophecy enthusiasts and began appearing in Argentina's political discussions. Some people close to Javier Milei's government connected the Grey Men to the political and economic transformation they claim to be carrying out. This is where the prediction becomes linked to 2026. Argentina continues to experience significant political and economic changes, and some followers of Parravicini are searching the present for the mysterious character he supposedly described decades ago. So far, however, there is no objective evidence that the Grey Man represents any specific person. Perhaps it is precisely this uncertainty that has kept the prophecy alive for so long. The election of Pope Leo XIV also revived an ancient prophecy that had been waiting for its next major development for many years. The document is known as the Prophecy of the Popes, or the Prophecy of Saint Malachi. It contains 112 short phrases written in Latin, each supposedly describing one of the popes who would lead the Catholic Church until the end of time. The text was attributed to Malachi, an Irish archbishop who traveled to Rome around 1139. According to tradition, he received a vision of all the future popes and recorded their characteristics through brief and symbolic descriptions. However, one important detail changes the entire story. There is no evidence that this document existed during Saint Malachi's lifetime. The prophecy was not published until 1595, more than 4 centuries after his death. For this reason, many historians consider it a forgery created in the 16th century. Even so, some of the mottos assigned to popes who lived before the document's publication appear surprisingly specific. Pope John Paul II, for example, was connected to the phrase, "from the labor of the sun," because he was born and buried on days associated with solar eclipses. Benedict XVI's was linked to the glory of the olive, as the olive branch appears in Benedictine traditions and is widely regarded as a symbol of peace. Traditional interpretations place Benedict XVI among the final popes on the list. After him would come the most frightening figure of them all, Peter the Roman. The final passage states that during a period of extreme persecution against the Church, Peter the Roman would rule and guide his followers through many tribulations. Afterward, Rome, the city of 7 hills, would be destroyed, and the Last Judgment would begin. When Francis was elected in 2013, many people immediately identified him as Peter the Roman. His birth name, however, was Jorge Mario Bergoglio. He was not named Peter, nor was he born in Rome. Still, his parents were Italian, and as Pope, he was considered a successor to Saint Peter. For believers in the prophecy, those connections were enough. Although many others regarded them as extremely forced interpretations, Francis died without Rome being destroyed. Pope Leo XIII was then elected, creating a major problem for those who had expected Francis to be the final pope on the list. The count appeared to have moved beyond the prophecy's supposed ending. Supporters of the prophecy soon found new ways to rearrange the sequence. Some interpretations include anti-popes, while others remove certain pontiffs from the count. There are also those who argue that additional popes could appear between the previous motto and the arrival of Peter the Roman. One interpretation published before the election of Leo XIV even suggested that there would be 2 more popes after Francis. If that theory were correct, Leo XIV would not be the final pontiff, but the second to last. The mystery became even more intense because the new pope took office during a period marked by international conflicts, religious divisions, and migration crises. Throughout 2026, He has repeatedly called for dialogue and peace as military tensions continue to rise. For those following the prophecy, the shepherd may already be guiding his flock through a time of tribulation. Skeptics, however, point out that similar connections could be found during almost any historical period of conflict or uncertainty. Long before the rise of modern cities, the Hopi people developed a unique view of time and human history. According to their tradition, humanity passes through a succession of different worlds. Each world ends when human beings disturb the balance of nature and abandon their spiritual responsibilities. The previous worlds were supposedly destroyed by ice, fire, or massive floods. The survivors were protected and guided into a new stage of existence. According to this belief, humanity is currently living in the fourth world. A modern and widely circulated version of this tradition describes a series of signs that would appear before a great transformation. These include images of spinning wheels, long roads, a web covering the earth, oceans turning dark, and finally the appearance of a blue star. During the 20th century, people began connecting these images to real technological and environmental developments. The wheels were associated with trains, the roads with modern highways, the web covering the earth with global communication networks, and the darkened oceans with massive oil spills. According to the popular version of the prophecy, the blue star will appear in the sky and remove its mask. Its arrival will announce the end of one era and the beginning of a worldwide purification. However, the most powerful element of the Hopi tradition is not the appearance of a specific star, but its warning about imbalance. In 2026, this division is said to be becoming increasingly visible. One part of the world is searching for cleaner sources of energy, greater cooperation, and new ways to protect the planet. Another part continues to intensify the exploitation of natural resources, warfare, and competition for control over advanced technology. The blue star has not yet appeared in the manner described by the prophecy. But for those who believe in the tradition, the real question is not when it will appear. The question is whether humanity will recognize the warnings before it is too late. Edgar Cayce, popularly known as the Sleeping Prophet, also left behind predictions that continue to be connected to events happening around the world. To perform a reading, he would lie down, close his eyes, and enter a sleep-like state. From there, he would answer questions about illnesses, past lives, ancient civilizations, and possible future events. Nearly 14,000 of his readings were recorded in writing. Most dealt with health-related matters, but some described enormous transformations across the planet. They spoke of powerful earthquakes, dramatic changes to coastlines, volcanic activity, climate disruption, and a possible reversal of Earth's magnetic poles. Coastal cities would disappear beneath the water, while ancient submerged lands would rise again. In 2026, Cayce's predictions return to public attention whenever a powerful earthquake strikes. A massive section of ice breaks away, or a storm floods a major city. This does not happen because Cayce specifically predicted those events for 2026. Instead, his descriptions were broad enough to be reinterpreted in light of whatever is happening in the present. Cayce did not see these changes purely as punishment. He viewed them as part of a larger process of transformation. According to his vision, systems built on selfishness, greed, and abuse would eventually collapse, forcing humanity to create a different kind of society. In 1989, Japanese artist Ryo Tatsuki published a manga titled The Future I Saw. The book brought together dreams she had recorded in personal journals over several years. Its cover included a short and disturbing phrase, "A great disaster," in March 2011. On March 11, 2011, a powerful earthquake triggered a devastating tsunami that struck Japan and caused the Fukushima nuclear disaster. When readers later rediscovered the cover of her manga, Ryo Tatsuki went from being a retired artist to someone many people regarded as a modern prophet. Other works attributed to her were also connected to the deaths of Freddie Mercury and Princess Diana. Followers began examining dates, dreams, and images in search of similarities between her drawings and real-world events. The prediction most relevant to this story, however, emerged much later. A new interpretation of the manga pointed to a catastrophic disaster in Japan on July 5, 2025. The date arrived, but the predicted disaster never happened. Even so, something unexpected occurred before that day. Many people began canceling planned trips to Japan. Airlines reduced or suspended certain flights. Travel agencies reported falling reservations, and fear surrounding the prediction began to affect the country's tourism industry. Perhaps this is the most frightening prophecy of them all. The disaster predicted by Ryo Tatsuki did not happen, yet the prediction still produced real consequences. The ocean did not destroy the country, and no city vanished, but thousands of people changed their plans, businesses lost passengers, and an unverified prophecy influenced real-world decisions. Perhaps the true power of these predictions does not come from accurately revealing the future. Perhaps it comes from convincing millions of people that the future has already been written.